And also because my partners were more experienced than I was like, well, obviously they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But like every single person,
every single vagina is different.
Every single vagina is different. Every partner is different. Things feel different for different people and feel like it's okay to like verbalize that and talk about it. But it was something that like I didn't know that I could do.
Yeah. And I want to say 99%
and once
women when they start having sex don't know.
And once you do learn how to like speak up and kind of like verbally like be like, yes, let's go on this journey. Let's find out what feels good for you. Let's find out what feels good for me. Like it makes it like that much better because you're feeling like close to your partner in that way. And also it's just a lot of fun. 2, 3, 4. Everybody to episode
12.
Thank you. I knew she'd jump in for the win.
I mean, I had to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
We are discussing Judy Blume's book Forever.
I was just saying to Robyn that really looks like a Sarah Dessen like cover because it's like literally same type, same general vibe.
Yeah, but I also feel like a lot of teen romancy novels have this kind of cover because also you don't have to pay a model as much if you don't show their face.
Interesting.
So that's why also like there's the faceless woman on a lot of movie posters. You don't have to pay them as much.
And foot fetishists. I don't know why I said that.
Anyway, so give us the rundown. Okay. What is Forever about?
I left my notebook at home, so we're going digital today. Catherine and Michael meet at a New Year's Eve party. They're attracted to each other. They grow to love each other. And once they've decided their love is forever, they make love. It's the beginning of an intense and exclusive relationship with a future all planned until Catherine's parents insist that she and Michael put their love to the test with a summer apart. Bum, bum, bum.
The bottom of my book says, is there a difference between first love and true love?
Yes, I think it says that right there. I have some interesting background about this story.
Yeah, first I wanted to read, before we dive into anything else, I wanted to read the note to the reader at the top, if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Because I liked it. Don't know if the phone number is still accurate, but it's from Judy Blume. When I wrote Forever in the mid-'70s, sexual responsibility meant preventing unwanted pregnancy. Today, sexual responsibility also means preventing transmitted infections, STIs, including a potentially fatal one, HIV/AIDS. Not quite as fatal anymore. A little 2024 update. Still, don't try to get it.
I don't think anyone was going
That was my addition. In the book, Catherine visits a clinic and is given a prescription for the pill. Today, she would be told it's essential to use a condom along with any other method of contraception to reduce the risk of getting an STI. If you're going to become sexually active, then you have to take responsibility for your own actions in your own life. For in-depth sexual and reproductive health information, contact the nearest Planned Parenthood Health Center by calling number. I can put something on the screen or you guys can Google it yourselves. And you can also visit the Planned Parenthood, plannedparenthood.org. And sexetcetera.org, which I've never heard of, for more info. So I just thought that was a cool
update,
cool distinction because it's really true, and it also, and we'll dive into this topic, but it really encapsulates a lot of what I really liked about this book.
Yeah, and this book was written, it was published in 1975, which was a good like 5 or 6 years before the AIDS outbreak.
Yes, yeah, and and I think before that, STIs in general weren't really a topic of conversation.
No, they weren't. But it was also interesting. So this book
was banned at times.
Yes. But also, I have a quote from Judy Blume herself.
For a second, I thought you were going to say I have a quote from Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. You know me well enough to know that I quote Jesus on the daily.
Like, not like a dot connecting that's likely for you, but something about the J made me think that you were going to say I have a quote from Jesus.
I don't think unless I'm saying Jesus. Which I say a lot. I don't really talk about
also,
Jesus.
Also, pretty sure Jesus himself would be like, go forth and fuck
my children.
Yep.
Oh, this is great. So I have a quote from Judy Blume herself. This book was first published in 1975. My daughter, Randy, asked for a story about two nice kids who have sex without either of them having to die. So this sounds super dramatic, but like I'll talk more about it. But she had read several novels about teenagers in love. If they had sex, the girl was always punished. An unplanned pregnancy, a hasty trip to a relative in another state, a grisly abortion, illegal in the U.S. until the 1970s, and,
Yeah.
it's a complicated history. Sometimes even death. Lies, secrets, at least one life ruined. Girls in these books had no sexual feelings, and boys had no feelings other than sexual ones. Neither took responsibility for their actions. I wanted to present another kind of story, one in which two seniors in high school fall in love, decide together to have sex, and act responsibly. Boom. I just read this book called Paperback Crush.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mentioned this when we were talking about
and it
this
talks about like the history of young adult, specifically like female young adult novels in the early 70s or early 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that what she writes is true. A lot of the books that did feature girls having sex before Forever was published, literally horrible things happened.
Oh, yeah.
Like they get like an abortion and like are cut up and like can never have children again, or they die and they're like, oh, if only I didn't have sex. It's the things that happen to these girls in this book, and I'll give a link to the Paperback like Crush in show notes. It's a really funny book. It's interesting to read too, but like it's literally like they wanted to have some sort of punishment for the girls specifically. And there were even a couple books where girls had been assaulted or raped, and then they would have to get punished for having sex. It's like that quote in Mean Girls where it's like, don't have sex because you will get pregnant and die. Literally, that's what happened to all the girls in these books. So Forever was really like revolutionary. Yeah. And I think it kind of set the tone for how sex is dealt with in YA books today.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't read very many recently published YA books, so I'm not totally sure, but I feel like sex was definitely touched on more, but it was still really vague, and this actually kind of got into some nitty-gritty details in a non, like, grossly pornographic way. Yeah. It was very much just, like, telling this story of these two kids kind of fumbling through figuring out sex, and nobody was really being shamed for it. And yeah, it was also like the Catherine, the main character, she's, grappling with really feeling sexual desire and really wanting to have sex with him, and then
kind of still feeling scared to leave like that childhood self behind, like that step from being a teenager who's going through puberty and taking that step into a young woman who has like sexual feelings and is a sexual being.
Yeah. And it was just really, it was really well done too, I think, in the sense that the parents weren't shaming. They were, they were like obviously being protective and wanting her to wait as long as she should and be responsible. And they were also kind of coming from a place of like, you're about to go to college. We don't want you to
be tied
make
down,
your life decisions based on a boyfriend, which I think is really common. But I really loved that her grandma mailed her the whole like package with all this shit about Planned Parenthood and how to get on the pill. Yeah. And was like, also like, don't tell your parents, because like, I know they love you and I know they're cool, but they might
try and talk you out don't
and so even grandma was like, let's go get you on some birth control.
If it's gonna happen, like don't try and like talk yourself out of it, because teenagers have all these feelings, and they were at a point in their lives where they were pretty like exclusive. They had talked about it. It was gonna happen.
Yeah, and it's
one way or another, and you just got to be smart about it.
Yeah, and that's like how my mom used to talk to my sister and me about sex. She would always say like, when we were like maybe like 13 or 14, before we'd really had like boyfriends and stuff, she would say like, if you're in a relationship like and you want to take that step, like I want you to come talk to me so that we can talk about it and make sure like you're ready, but then also just like put you on the pill and make sure you're safe, because I can say no, don't do it. I know you're going to go do it, but you're going to go do it in an unsafe way.
Yeah.
So I want to just make sure that you're armed and ready to protect yourself, because I'd rather that happen than me demand no and try to lock you away.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna figure out how to have sex. Like, it's kind of like when some parents are like, oh, your curfew is 11 p.m. so you're not out there fucking. It's just like, we can fuck before 11 p.m.
You can fuck anytime.
You can fuck at any time of day. It's so interesting too, because I remember reading this book in high school, before I'd ever had a boyfriend or anything like that. And it was so interesting to look at it now from the perspective I'm in, because they're just such teenagers, and I don't want to like villainize Michael at all.
No, but he's such a teenage boy.
Such a teenage boy. He was
in a bad way. He
was the respectful end of being a horny teenage boy.
But he was still a horny teenage boy.
But I remember feeling like he was so patient and respectful.
I know,
and he's so pushy.
So I have never read this book before.
Oh,
ever.
Right,
this is my first time reading it. And I was reading like, oh, I know like teenagers are going to think like, oh my God, Michael, he's so dreamy. He's like waiting. I was like, he's pretty pushy, but he's also like 18. So like, I get it.
Yeah.
Reading that as a 30-year-old woman, like I was able to have that kind of dual perspective. But I really wish I had a book like this when I was 16, 17, 18, because I had such a complicated relationship to growing into my sexuality.
Yeah.
I was so like, I wanted to do it. I wanted to not just like have sex. You wanted
to fall in love.
Yeah, I wanted to fall in love. I wanted to have a boyfriend. I wanted to experience all these feelings. And whenever I would get close, I would freak out and I would kind of shut down because I was just like having all these complicated feelings with taking that step and like fully leaving childhood behind and being like, it's okay to be a sexual being. It's okay to grow up. It's okay to move on and move forward with your life. And I think it took me a really long time to come to terms with that.
I don't think I struggled with that as the like leaving your childhood behind part as a teenager. Mm-hmm. I think it was more so just the fear of the unknown and the anxiety of being an inexperienced person and, you know, not knowing how to give a blowjob and not knowing objectively how sex works, but not like knowing. And so it was also nice to like read a book of story of watching two people fumble through and also know it's kind of okay to fumble through, because also a lot of teen drama shows that were on, especially in like the early 2000s,
super sexy.
The women who were the like teens having sex were very fully grown and comfortable into their sexuality. And so it makes you feel like that's kind of what you have to be.
Yeah.
And so I had this weird thing where I was like, well, I have to be like Brooke Davis in One Tree Hill. She's so confident in her sexuality. But like, I have no idea what's going on and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my thing where it was nice to see a story with two people who I would have liked Michael to have also been a virgin.
Yeah. But it was the 70s.
Yeah. But I would have just, and I know he like only had sex like twice. What did he say? Like,
I think it was like one, or it was 2 times, but it was like with the same girl.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. And then I also really appreciated that he prematurely came the first time they were gonna fuck, because that's so common.
Your first time, and like I felt like Kath was like, I wish it was magical, and I'm like, oh girl, that was about as magical as it's gonna get for you.
Yeah, but even like before they actually did it, he came before he went inside.
Like, he came, like he was moving up to the end, then boom.
Yeah, and then when they actually did it, he like thrusted once and came.
Yeah, such a teenage boy.
Yeah, and I just really liked that, because I think also teenage boys never really want to acknowledge that that's something that happens, and they get really embarrassed.
Yeah, and it's like, it's okay. We're all figuring this out together.
Yeah, also,
you can do other fun stuff.
Yeah, also like, and I've never had that experience when hooking up with a guy, but I feel like I would be flattered. I'd be like, oh my God, you just want to have sex with me so bad.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thank you.
I've never had that experience with a guy either.
I haven't. I don't mean this to sound as braggy as I haven't had sex with inexperienced guys. Like I did, like, you know, I've never had sex with a guy who's a virgin, And I've also never had sex with a guy who like was newly having sex. So I feel like that also
I think I had the same thing.
is a thing.
Yeah.
But
not that that's a bad thing.
no,
It's just how it happened.
but I think it's just nice. And he also, Michael didn't really seem embarrassed by it. He was just objectively like, sorry, I'm just so excited.
Yeah, I think he was like angry. He's like, I wanted it to be good for you.
Which in my head I was like, bro, then why aren't you eating her out now? That kind of pissed me off. Also,
I mean, again, it was the 70s.
men still ate women out.
No,
in the
I know
70s.
that. I'm just like to talk about it in a YA book. Cunnilingus is has a very complicated history with the mainstream culture.
Because she never gave him a blowjob, did
No. No.
she? I don't remember. I think they were just,
But I think maybe that was like the editors being like, whoa,
hey.
just for female pleasure? That's taking it too far.
Right. But like, I also
Why
want,
don't you write a nice blowjob scene?
but speaking of female pleasure though, I'm genuinely shocked that she wrote in that she was finishing at some point.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anyone who was having sex in high school who was making a girl come.
I didn't really talk about that with other people because I was like, I was a virgin until college. So yeah.
I just feel like,
But you're probably like, probably right.
But even through college, like I don't know a lot of the guys fucking in college who were making women come either. And if you think you were, she was faking it.
I faked it. I faked it for so long.
I'm just gonna say I have never faked it. You don't deserve that.
Yeah.
I just let you finish and then I leave.
Yeah. Or like, hey, can we keep going? I'm not done yet.
No, if you finish and you don't offer, we're done. Bye.
Yeah. I faked for a really long time because I have a complicated history with like sex, but it was just like, oh my God, something's wrong with me that I'm not feeling.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling any of the feelings. And it was really like, yeah, there was a lot of issues, but
Well, you also like, I feel like also a lot of women don't realize that it's incredibly common to not finish from like penetration.
Yeah. But then it was also like, I didn't know, like, I wasn't comfortable having like an open conversation with my partners and being like, hey, that doesn't feel good. Can you try this instead?
That's really hard too, though. Like,
and
it took me a long time
it's
into
hard to
having
learn,
sex to
yeah.
feel comfortable with that, or be able to, if being asked like, what do you want, like knowing how to answer it.
Yeah.
It's just an uncomfortable place that you have to learn and figure out.
Yeah.
Because you also don't see that happening in movies either.
Yeah,
People
like
just have
sometimes-
sex and find magic, and it's just like,
or they're
no.
just raw dogging it, like no foreplay.
Yeah.
He's just in there already. I'm like, ouch.
Yeah, you kind of have, like you don't see that happening, and we get a lot of this information from the media. And if nobody's really showing the process of like, oh, right there, is that good? Yeah, that's good. Oh, maybe like a little
maybe
to the
a little
left.
to the left, little to the right.
Yeah, like nobody's really showing that, so you think, oh, this should just be working and this should just be feeling good. And then when it's not, it's like, am I supposed to tell you?
Yeah. So that was like, and also because my partners were more experienced than I was like, well, obviously they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But like every single person,
Every single vagina is different.
every single vagina is different. Every partner is different. Things feel different for different people, and feel like it's okay to like verbalize that and talk about it. But it was something that like I didn't know that I could do.
Yeah, and I want to say 99%.
Yeah, and once
women when they start having sex don't know.
And once you do learn how to like speak up and kind of like verbally like be like, yes, let's go on this journey. Let's find out what feels good for you. Let's find out what feels good for me. Like it makes it like that much better because you're feeling like close to your partner in that way. And also it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think also that's also the difference between, like casual hookups versus having sex in a relationship. Because I think when you're in that relationship, it also paves the way for more comfortability to be able to do that and then try things, try new positions, try something out, like do something interesting. Like if you're just like hooking up, it's also still a little more uncomfortable to
because you don't really know that person.
Yeah,
that
you
well,
don't know the person that like well, and it's just like we're just kind of we know we're both here to do the thing, so it'd be nice if you could figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. I just like, but I think it's surprising that she was having orgasms. That's basically the point of that. I was like,
Michael has a
Catherine.
magic dick.
Yeah.
I also didn't love the fact that he called his penis Ralph.
I was just about to talk about that.
That is a very, like, I'm trying to
wrote-
chalk that up to teenagers being teenagers.
Yeah.
But I was, as soon as he said, like, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Ralph, I was like, ugh.
I wrote in here, if a man introduced me to his penis and called it Ralph, I would run him over. And I also wrote, if a boy called me delicious after our first kiss, I would run him over.
I literally highlighted that because I knew that you were going to say something about it.
I don't like it when people refer to things as yummy and delicious that aren't food. Like if you call a blanket delicious, no. And I know some people that refer to like, oh, isn't this like sweater so yummy? And like I get it. But I'm just like, a cake is yummy.
I don't think I've ever described anything as delicious.
Or I've heard people describe like moments in like a movie. Oh, it was like such a delicious moment. And I'm just like, no.
I don't know if I have like a really...
I don't like food descriptors.
It depends on what somebody's using the word delicious to describe if it's not food. And then I'll have a visceral reaction.
But like what?
I think
Give me an
Michael,
example of one
I
that's
don't
not
know.
gross.
It's not just, I don't know.
See?
But like
Can't think of it.
Michael calling Catherine delicious was very much to me like a boy emulating what he thinks a man would say in that situation.
I mean, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I've also never had a man say anything like that around me either.
No,
though.
I haven't.
Also, what is hooking a rug?
Crocheting a rug, I think.
They just said that her sister was.
That's like
her
a
parents
thing-
were hooking a rug and I was like, what the fuck is hooking a rug?
Snorting some coke. I want to talk
Party.
about the fact that they met at a fondue party. That is
fondue
so
New Year's Eve
70s.
party.
My parents used to have fondue parties.
I didn't realize fondue was such a 70s thing. The thing that I liked was calling it going together.
Yeah.
That's a very like 70s thing of like, oh, we're going together.
Or like,
are you two going together?
I love all the like the references of like, oh my God, this is so 70s, where he was like making a joke about like these hands, like you can't tell my age with these hands because ivory hides it well. It's like ivory soap. That was like a tagline for like ivory dish soap for women. It's like, I'm really 37, but my hands look 18. These hands won't give me away.
Yeah. It was very,
it made me laugh.
It was very time capsuled in
Yeah,
some of
because
those
I like
ways.
vintage I like looking at vintage ads like that. So I've seen like ivory ads where it's like that tagline.
Yeah. I wrote down to talk about why the fuck was Catherine's father saying that if her mom didn't start going to the gym, her thighs would get flabby.
Oh my God, yeah.
Excuse me?
I thought there was going to be some kind of issue with that, with the parents' relationship.
Well, no, just later in the story, the mom just said, are you sure my thighs aren't getting flabby?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, mom.
Or was it the dad who said that, or was it the mom's friends who were like, you have to take care of your appearance because your husband is a really attractive man and this is a dangerous time period?
They said that to her husband, or the dad said the flabby thigh thing.
Okay.
The friends have said you have to take care of yourself because everybody wants to fuck your husband. And then, so that just disgusted me.
Yeah.
I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe you should worry about your flabby thighs, Gus. I don't know what his name is.
Yeah. But I did also appreciate when Catherine was talking to her parents about sex, they both acknowledged that it's different for guys. Mm-hmm. And like at the time that they met and they were, discovering sex, like a man was supposed to have experience.
Yeah.
And so I did like that they acknowledged it. And I like that the dad approached his maybe concern that his daughter might start having sex soon, just from the space of like, I'm not judging you, but like women are treated differently when they start having sex.
Yes.
It wasn't like a don't be a slut, It was like,
This is what society...
society can react harshly to you, and that's kind of what I'm afraid of. So yeah, I don't know. It was a really open conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I didn't feel like I could really have a conversation with my parents like that about sex because I didn't really feel comfortable with it. And any kind of like, this is not to say like anything bad about my parents. This is just the time period that we grew up in. But like whenever I kind of I remember asking to go on the pill to my mom, and it was like not even because I wanted to have sex. It was just because I needed it for my hormones. And my mom kind of like freaked out about that, even though she knows, because she was kind of like, that means you can have sex anytime you want kind of thing. So it was like kind of nonverbal cues that I picked up from my parents that made it harder for me to
or
come
maybe,
to terms with
and
like,
maybe that wasn't even like what they were intentioning. That was just like the messaging you received from some of their
exactly.
behaviors.
I don't even think it was like they did it on purpose. It was just something that I picked up.
Well, that's not uncommon too. A lot of my friends didn't have open conversations with their parents in high school about sex. And like I said, my mom was pretty like open and honest, and I could ask her questions. Like I think I remember even I was like 12 or 13 or something, and I understood what like masturbating was, but people only really talked about men masturbating. So I remember saying to my mom, like, so men masturbate this way. How does a woman masturbate? Like I was able to ask my mom that question just because I was like, I don't understand. Like people only talk about men just like, and like if a woman can too, how does that work? Because I was, like I said, young, but like I understood things and like, so I could ask my mom questions, and I never had to ask her to go on the pill either, because I ended up going on the pill because I had really heavy periods and I was really anemic. So we ended up doing that to lighten up my periods. And I would like to believe that if I'd, realized I was getting close to wanting to start having sex, or maybe I'd already started, I would have, talked to her. But it's also hard to say because like no matter how much your parent says like you can
talk to me
call
about
me about
anything.
this, it's still like scary. And uncomfortable.
And I think society treats virginity and minors engaging in sex like very like it's very taboo in our society. And once again, my household was never like that. Like I was never raised with this virginity thing, like virginity is totally
crumpled flower. Like
I never got
whatever.
that either, but it's the case for a lot of people, and it's also like losing your virginity is a bigger deal for women than it is for men.
What's that thing that people say, like a lock that can be opened by a lot of keys is not a very good lock, but a key that can open up a lot of locks is a master key. And it's just like, fuck off.
Like your crumpled flower, that like Jane the Virgin kind of thing, where it's like you start having sex now, it's all downhill from here.
I read this really interesting article once about a woman who was raised very religious with the like, your virginity is so important. You wait until you're married, otherwise you're a dirty,
blessing. You have to
whore.
present your flower to your one true love.
The article was about how she did all of that. She got married, she waited, and she was so fucked up about having sex even after she got married. And she ended up needing to go to therapy for that, because even though she technically did everything based on the standards that she was approached about, it still fucked her up inside so much that she like couldn't have sex with her husband. And it's also like the thing that also trips me out is like if you wait until you're married, everybody knows you're fucking that night.
But also like you don't know if you're sexually compatible with that man that you
and
just
the first
married.
time can't be good.
It's not like it's got to be like it happens all the time in romance novels. We all love to read like in historical romance novels, especially because most of the time when sex scenes happen in a historical, the woman is a virgin and the man is more experienced. And he's always like, I'm gonna like, and then he magically makes her come. I mean, he does other stuff to her other than just like sticking his dick inside of her. But, you gotta have a lot of patience and a lot of trust to be able to make somebody come their very first time. And it's gonna take a while. And you gotta be like, not a lot of people.
Women, if you are a woman and you came your first time having sex, please let us know how that was, how that happened.
Okay, so I didn't come my first time having sex. It wasn't bad, but it was just like, I was like, okay, this is and I was like, I could probably stop now. But like,
I would be shocked if anyone was like,
tell us your story.
I came my first time having sex.
I mean, congratulations. For one, like good for you. good for your partner.
Yeah.
It's just like, don't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah, it's just
Just kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Also, parents, teach your teenage boys about consent. Like we said, Michael in this story was pushy. He was a horny teenage boy, but he did respect her boundaries when she would say no. Like, and then there was even, they went on a ski trip and she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm on my period. And she thought he was going to be mad at her.
Yeah.
And he was
And
just
he's
like, no,
like-
I'm just happy you're here.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, I just wanted to spend time with you. Of course, like, I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to have sex with you, but you're
Yeah.
here not because I just want to have sex with you. I also want to spend time with you. And
Yeah.
that was like a cute moment.
And even though he did like try a lot and like kind of make those like moves when she would be like, no, like, he never like pushed her too far.
Yeah, I was like, oh, come on, just like,
yeah, and it's just like that's just a horny teenage boy. Like, how mad can you be at that kid?
Yeah.
But so
he's
I really
feeling a lot of feelings.
yeah, so I really appreciated that, and I think in response to teaching teens how to have sex responsibly, we should also be teaching both parties about consent and what that means, and how to make sure you have it and how to respect it. Because
And the
that's a big gap
complexity of
in
it,
our
like
college.
somebody
Yeah.
can give consent at the beginning and then take that consent away.
Yeah,
And that is okay.
yeah, it gets really complicated.
And I think a lot of guys don't know how to deal with that either. Where if somebody's
No.
like, yeah, where it's like the woman is like, like I thought I wanted to do it. I thought I was into it, but like, maybe not tonight.
Yeah, the best metaphor I heard for that was a woman was saying, if I loan you $5, that doesn't mean you can just go into my wallet and take $5 out the next time you need $5. And that's, the best way to put it. Like, just because I said yes here doesn't mean that it's yes forever. Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah. Can we talk about Archie and Erica?
Yes.
What the fuck?
That was a lot, man. I thought
Escalated quickly.
I thought for sure Archie was going to die. Like when I was like after his birthday, like Archie hung himself in the shower and I'm like, oh, here we go. He's dead.
I definitely think Archie needed mental health treatment, and I don't think suicide attempts or cries for attention, but he was also being very manipulative to Erica, and I didn't like that.
No.
I wanted to preface that by saying like suicide is not a cry for attention, but
The behavior that he was exhibiting.
emotionally abusive men will pull the "if you leave, I will kill myself" thing.
Yeah. So that's what happened. I think Erica.
They were having a talk or something, and they locked himself in the bathroom.
Yeah. And she was like, I think she had said like, I don't know, like this is hard. I don't know if I want to do this anymore or something.
Yeah.
And he locked himself in the bathroom and was like, if you leave, I'm going to kill myself. And it's just like, whoa, slow your roll, dude.
And that's also why I'm just like, I don't
put the emotional onus on the woman.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that about Archie. I'm glad he got help, but and he needed it. But two things can be true at the same time. He could have been depressed and struggling
And he could
with suicidal ideations, and he could have also been trying to emotionally manipulate and control Erica.
And I think he was. She was still feeling like very guilty.
Yeah.
After his suicide attempt, and she was like, "It's all my fault." To be fair, Michael was feeling the same way too.
Yeah.
But it's never your fault when somebody does that.
No.
It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
But
It's just like, that was like a turn in the book I had no memory of from reading it when I was a teenager. And I was just like, I know Archie's like odd, but whoa, okay.
yeah,
We're here now.
yeah. And he was like, of course, he was going through a lot, but he was really kind of nasty to Catherine on a couple occasions too.
Yeah, he wasn't my favorite character.
No, I
like
mean,
him.
to be fair, yeah, he was just like, there were a couple times where he was like really down. He was being a real downer because he was having a depressive episode. And Catherine kind of didn't really know how to respond to that. So she was like, oh, it'll look better tomorrow or kind of thing. I would have done the exact same thing. I would have been uncomfortable that somebody that I care about is exhibiting these things and try and be like, okay, well, it's
Especially
not that bad.
as a teenager when you really don't have the
Emotional maturity.
or even just life experience to be able to do that.
Yeah. And so there were a couple times where she kind of, I could see how he would read it as her being dismissive and being like, oh, you just need to buck up. But it's also like, cut her some slack. She doesn't know.
Yeah,
like,
well, I've definitely felt dismissed by people doing that to me in my life, but you have to take a step back and realize that, yes, maybe the messaging you received was dismissive and it's okay to feel dismissed, but you can't think that they were consciously trying to dismiss you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just like weird.
I mean, I think
could
it
have
was
almost done without the Archie Erica storyline.
I think it was
to be
really
honest.
interesting though, because how many books at the time were talking about this kind of mental health issues that teenagers were facing.
I think it's just that there wasn't it either needed to have more or not be there at all.
I see.
I just don't think there was enough in there to make it as educational of an experience as I think it could have been.
Yeah,
there wasn't enough in there. They were just kind of around and like sprinkling in interactions and situations here and there.
It was almost like two different books. Kind of like Archie and Erica were the main character of one book, and Catherine and Michael were and they kind of like came together and had these moments where their stories kind of abutted, and then they would separate and then come together again.
Yeah, but that was just so wild.
Same thing with the parents to me too, like the relationship between Catherine's mom and dad, where Catherine's mom was like, she was a woman who was like very naturally beautiful and didn't really put on makeup, didn't really wear a bra. She was very comfortable.
What a bitch.
I know, what a whore. I'm just kidding. Very comfortable in how she looked and who she was and in her marriage. But then I thought that something was going to happen with the parents. Like, because of all that stuff of like, oh, you need to start trying harder for your husband. You need to look better for your husband.
Yeah, that did just kind of dwindle out.
Yeah, so it that could have gone somewhere too, and I didn't think we got a bit of any payoff with that as well.
It also felt like the storylines and moments and relationships with the grandparents were just there so that when the grandpa dies while she's away working at the camp, it hits harder. And I understand that whole thing. But it felt like we're just putting these moments here so that this makes sense later. It didn't give me any real payoffs outside of the grandma giving her like the Planned Parenthood stuff. Like none of it really felt like a payoff to me. And then he just dies.
Yeah. I felt the same way.
I was like
it's a short book. There's not really like you.
And it is like a very like kind of bullet pointy book.
Yeah.
Like then this happens, then this happens.
There's not a lot of description. It's very dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like it is interesting too because I've talked about I have intimacy issues, but like I've only been in love once. But even when I was in love, I never like felt like this crazy, like, oh my God, we have to wait a whole week to see each other. Like you look like sick. Like she was told that she looked like ill because Michael went out of town for like a week. Like I'm just like, I know that's like very teenagery.
Very teenagery.
But I just like, I've never experienced that. Like,
I mean,
even with my first love, like I didn't even, like I wanted to be around the person, but I wasn't ill when I wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. So Eric and I have been dating for like 5 years.
Damn.
I know, it's almost 5 years. It's crazy. And I think the longest we've spent apart was like a week when I had to, when I was staying with my sister a couple months ago. And that was like, I was not ill. I had a lot going for me. I was busy. I was living life, hanging out with my sister. And he was like hanging out with his friends and he was working. But I did have like, oh my God, I just wish he was here so I could tell him. But it wasn't like, so that to me felt very teenagery. You know?
Well, that's just like missing your boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like,
I think she was like, I don't know how I'm going to live to the end of summer.
Yeah. And then, so toward the end of the book, because they're both seniors, her parents get her a job at being an assistant coach at like a tennis camp that's a few hours away or something for
like
7
her
weeks.
Her sister is going to the camp too, so she's going to be a camp counselor there.
Yeah, and she like has this whole dramatic thing of just like, you're just trying to separate me from Michael, and they're like, this is a great opportunity.
And they're like, yeah, no, we are.
Yeah, but they were also like, we don't want you to choose your college based on a boy, which I get.
Because like when they were applying for colleges, I think they met after they had applied for colleges, she and Michael. And then like she was like kind of panicking when she was thinking of next year, like being separated from him.
Yeah.
Because they already didn't go to the same school. And she was like, I need to change my admission. I need to apply to these schools because that's where he's going to go.
Yeah.
And her parents were like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah. And I understand from the teenager point of view feeling like that's the cruelest thing in the world. But as an adult, I understand.
Don't be Felicity. Don't.
Yeah. I also just like, I have a very distinct memory of when I was graduating from high school and talking about like some friends I didn't have a boyfriend at the time. And I remember my mom specifically saying like, I'm actually really happy that you can just make this decision freely for you without worrying about a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I remember even at the time feeling pretty grateful for that because like another one of my friends, like she was dating a guy 1 year above us. He went to school in the area and then she decided to go to the same college as him, but then they broke up the summer before college. Yeah. So it's just like, and like she wanted to go to school. It wasn't like a full like, I'm following you thing, but like it's just kind of one of those bummer things that's just like, you should be able to make that decision solely for you, and then figure out if that person can fit in, to what you're deciding for yourself. But that's like really fucking hard, especially for an 18-year-old.
And also you're too young, like to be making to base all of your life decisions around another person.
Because there's so many people that you could and will meet. Like at the camp, she meets Theo, another like worker who they have a flirty
hot,
thing
sexy
with.
Tennis guy.
Yeah, they have a flirty thing, and I do like that it played out that way too, because so they were going long distance for the summer. He was working in like North Carolina at his uncle's something
he was a lumberjack.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? and she's off at this tennis camp, and they're writing letters. So 70s. And but it's just like, and then she even like says to her parents, like, we've been writing every day. Bet you didn't think that would happen.
She like, when her parents came to visit, she like pulled out all the letters and she was like, I bet you guys didn't think we'd be writing to each other. You guys look like idiots now. And her parents are like, okay.
Like, yeah, no, like it's fine. But she has this kind of flirty thing with Theo that she's kind of noticing. And then she gets a call while at camp that her grandpa died, and her parents decided, like, they're like, he didn't want a funeral. We think it's best if you and your sister just stay there.
Yeah.
And she's really upset about it. And Theo comes to console her, and she does kiss him and kind of tries to initiate sex with him.
Yeah.
And he respectfully is like, I'm not going to have sex with you when you're upset.
Yeah. And he was like, I really liked him.
Yeah.
He was like, I like you. I want to be with you.
He was a little older, right? He was 20?
Yeah, I think he was, a couple years old. And he was like, I like you. I want to be with you. I want you to get your head on straight first and figure out what you want. And then, call me.
Yeah. And then while she's dealing with all this, grieving her grandpa and also having confused feelings about, like, still loving the comfort of her relationship with Michael, and then being like, but I also think I kind of like this guy.
Yeah.
She doesn't write Michael back quick enough, and then he surprises her a couple days early when he's supposed to visit, and they have their kind of like
breakup moment.
And the way he ends it is so teenage. So they have their breakup, and it's very teenagery, whatever. Like you said forever. Adult breakups don't go smoothly either. But then when they're driving back to the camp, he's like, just so you know, I was fucking everybody in North Carolina.
Yeah, I was humping everying in sight.
Like,
and she was like, no, you didn't. And he was like, yes, I did. He's like, but she'll never know the truth. And then he drives away. It's so dramatic.
It's just like, it's so clearly like bruised ego. Like, but I was just like, Michael.
Let's talk about this though. Do you think he did?
No,
I don't think so either.
I really don't think he did.
I think that's like boy rejection, where he's like, oh, you're pretty cute. And she's like, sorry, I'm not interested. Well, you're fucking ugly anyway.
Yeah, it was exactly that method of going about it. Yeah, I don't think he did at all.
He's like, well, I never wanted you fat slut.
Yeah, I think he was still fully in it, still so fully in love with Catherine, and of course that would be a devastating position to be in. Like, I don't blame him for doing that, but it was just so like, I just rolled my eyes.
I did
like,
too. I was like, oh my God.
Loser. But I mean, yeah, you just, shit doesn't work out. It's just, I know a handful of people who are with their high school sweetheart.
I want to talk to Jared and Nikki. We should have had them
I know,
on
like,
this
but
show.
I even know, like, a guy I went to college with, he married his high school sweetheart.
And my friend married her high school
after
sweetheart
high school,
too.
and they were married all through college, and they're still together to this day, and they're just such a lovely couple. Like,
Yeah.
I just find these people, and I'm just like, yeah, sometimes it can work, but I think you need to go into things with the openness that it couldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, like, expect something to fail, but it's just like Catherine left for this thing so in love with Michael and not being able to imagine her with anybody
she
else.
was so wrapped up in him.
And then she meets Theo, and it's like, oh, there are other people out here. And I would love to imagine a follow-up to see her and Theo have possibly a more emotionally mature relationship. Because, yeah, like we said, he seemed very mature. He was like, I'm not gonna fuck you to provide a Band-Aid for this pain you're feeling.
Yeah, he's like, it's just because you want to be close to somebody, you want to feel alive because your grandfather died. Like, I get it. I'm not going to do that for you.
Yeah.
And he also said, like, because a big thing with Michael and Catherine, I don't know if you get it from the title of the book, is that they're like, I love you forever.
Yeah,
like,
I think he gave
her like a necklace
that had her name on the front and then his name on the back, and it said forever with an ellipses.
Yeah, and then like she was like showing it to Theo, or he like asked about it or something, and he was like, forever. And she's like, what's wrong with forever?
Yeah, she got so she got
and he was like,
defensive real
I just
fast.
think forever is like really long for somebody your age. Like, that's a long time.
Yeah. It is crazy. Like 20-year-olds are obviously still really stupid too, but it is kind of crazy how much growth you can have between ages like 17 and 20 and just how much perspective you can start to gain.
Yeah.
You still have a lot more work to do. I'm not saying 20-year-olds know what's up.
Yeah.
But it is just kind of crazy how even just that little like 2 to 3 year difference can give you that perspective on relationships.
Because probably Theo had a girlfriend
Probably.
when he went to college, and like I knew a lot of people in college who had like significant others, and they did not last the first
Like
semester.
from high school?
Yeah, from high school.
yeah.
They did not. Every single one of them broke up before the semester ended.
Of course.
Yeah. Except for Jared and Nikki.
Yeah. Yeah. We should grill them, ask them how they did it.
Let's call them up right now.
I honestly ask them about their relationship all the time.
I find it so fascinating, though.
Yeah. Especially, like, I think also I'm, like, a child of divorce. Both of my parents have been married multiple times. So I think seeing people like that so comfortable and sure, I'm just like, wait, so explain this to me again.
Like, you guys are actually happy?
Like, and then, like, and so explain to me. And then, like, when college, like, explain to me how, like, I'm always just, like, asking and re-asking questions because I can't wrap my head around
And Jared
it.
is like, I already told you all of this.
He's just always like, you're always asking me questions. I'm just like, because I just don't get it.
Let's call Jared up right now and talk to him.
But yeah, and then, she gets back from the camp, and at the end of the book, Theo calls.
I liked that ending, though.
Yeah, it's like, look at this. How far into her 7 weeks at the camp did she and Michael break up?
Oh,
I don't remember. Like halfway through?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, so she had the rest of the time at the camp to work on, recovering from that heartbreak.
Yeah. And then I think it was like, yeah, but I also liked this one quote. Give me 1 second. I'm unemployed now, so I had to borrow it off of Libby. So it was the very last chapter where she and Michael run into each other again after they had broken up. And she said, I wanted to tell him that I will never be sorry for loving him, that in a way I still do, that maybe I always will. I'll never regret one single thing we did together because what we had was very special. Maybe if we were 10 years older, it would have worked out differently. I think it's just that I'm not ready for forever. So beautiful.
Yeah, so they bumped into each other one last time post-breakup and had that brief interaction. She had that thought of like, what I wanted to tell him was this. And yeah, I thought that encapsulates
how I
love
feel for
perfectly.
my first boyfriend. I kind of had a vaguely similar situation to Catherine, where I went away for the summer and I was super into my boyfriend, and then had another guy that I was like, and then I kind of panicked and was like, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong because I'm having feelings for another guy when I'm with a boyfriend. And like I I still always felt like really guilty about that. And then kind of reading this, I was like, man, I really should have read this when I was like 18. It would have given me so much perspective because like I just wasn't ready for like that kind of a commitment yet.
Yeah.
And I also had a lot of other issues to work on. I just wasn't ready for a boyfriend. And he was like my first boyfriend, sweetest man ever. I wish him nothing but well. But I just wasn't ready for you, you know?
And he, looking back, probably feels the same. Like he wasn't ready like for forever either.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're a teenager and you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Well, it was a really fast read.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. I think it's a very important book for any teenager to read.
Yeah.
It's still like, I was surprised by how much it held up.
Yeah. It felt super real and down to earth and authentic to that experience. So recommend to teens and beyond.
Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to be that one woman who just gives out this book to like every single 15-year-old person that I meet.
Yeah, honestly, like when my niece is like 15, I'll gift her this book or something.
If I ever have a niece, I'll give it to my nephew. Like I'm just going to buy a crate of these books and just hand them out at Halloween.
Halloween?
You know, whenever I can. I'll be the book lady. I'll just give everybody books.
Do 15-year-olds trick or treat?
Yeah. My parents get 15-year-olds trick-or-treating.
Oh.
I trick-or-treated till I was like 16.
I think I decided I was too cool.
Well, I did not have that issue.
I mean, in retrospect, the free candy probably would have been more fun than just like dicking around in somebody's living room.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. I think we were all my friends that year. We were all very conscious. Like, this is the last time we can get away with this. Yeah. And we're going to do it.
I remember, I think the last time I trick-or-treated was like my 8th grade year. Mm-hmm. I think after that we just like fucked around in costumes.
Mm-hmm. Ew.
So yeah, well, that was Forever. Let us know what other books you want us to
talk about. Did you guys read Forever, or did you, like me, come to this as an older person, kind of give you perspective on your teenage romances?
Yeah. Was this the first time you read it, or did you reread it as an adult? Let us know what you thought.
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe, rate 5 stars.
Tell us how much you love us.
Yeah, and if you hate us, be quiet.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that.
And yeah, we'll
catch you on the flippity flip.
Yes, see you guys next week.
Bye.